want to start in Acts 26 for anybody who wants to kind of follow along. The scripture that I'm going to start with is in Acts 26. And Paul is at this time, he is standing before the king, and this king is Agrippa, and Paul is being called on, and he's talking about his conversion to Agrippa at this time. And he's talking about when the Lord first appeared to him. Everybody's familiar with that. Saul was on the road to Damascus. He was, he had some letters with him, and then the Lord stopped him, and of course, he showed himself to him, and then said to him, Saul, Saul. He says, why do you persecute me? And he said, it's hard for you to kick against the thorns. And it is hard, isn't it, to kick against God. That's the hardest thing we could do in life, and the most pointless. That, to me, why would we do that? Why would we continually do something that we know does not work? I don't want to spend a lot of my time on this earth doing things that I know do not work. Do you? I want to recognize those things quickly and change them as fast as I can, because that's what this is. I don't want to continue in futility. And we know that, based on the scriptures, that fighting against what the Lord has for us is futile. And it's not going to get us anywhere. Unfortunately, we don't stop a lot of times. But this is what the Lord said to him. And Paul said, who art thou, Lord? And he said, I'm Jesus who you persecute. And Paul's going through all of this, and he's talking to the king. And verse number 19 is where I'm going to kick off from. Really, if you want to go down more on, I'm not going to read all those. But Paul says this. He goes, whereupon, O King Agrippa, he makes this statement. He says, I was not disobedient. I want everybody, Dad had us all say this, but I want us all to say this morning too. Say this with me. I am not disobedient unto the heavenly vision. Paul said this. How many of you know that you've got a vision of your life that is reserved in heaven? It is called a heavenly vision. We all need vision in life, don't we? You're sitting here, I'm here, we're all here today, but the main thing is we need to have our eyes looking ahead, always, onward and upward. We're always looking ahead. But the beautiful thing to me this morning is to know that there is a heavenly vision for my life and for your life. It is a perfect will of God working in your life. How many of you think you're sitting here this morning just by accident? How many of you think that you married who you married by accident? Don't answer these. How many of you think that your children and everything that you have was an accident? No, it's not. There is a heavenly vision for everybody's life, that if we will wait for it, and this is the thing. Paul said this to Agrippa. He goes, I was not disobedient. When I received the vision, he said, I took the vision, I lived it. I gave myself to the vision for my life that the Lord had for me. I was not disobedient to that vision. And I would say this morning, we ought not be disobedient to the heavenly vision that God has for each and every one of us. Because it's a wonderful life that He's got in view for you, both on this earth and beyond this earth. There is a vision that heaven holds for every human being that is going to, and I believe this with all my heart, it's going to prosper you. It's going to bring you good things. It's a good life, living for the Lord. It is. If we're not disobedient to it. We've got to learn. Go get me Habakkuk 2. Habakkuk 2. Paul said, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. Excuse me. I don't want to be disobedient to my heavenly vision. I have seen the Lord do things, bring things into my life, bring people into my life, bring good things into my life, over and over and over and over again. And you know, most of the time I didn't even have actually all of the time I really didn't even have anything to do with it. I've gone and applied for jobs. I've gone and done, and you know, I think some of the times I go, why did I not get that job? And then I would look and see 6 months later the job got moved over here. And you know what I thought? I sure am glad that I didn't get that. Because see, there was a better way for me that the Lord had in store that I didn't even realize. Most of the time we don't realize it. But we just have to learn to wait for it. That's the big thing. You know, so much of the time, and of course, what are we going to do with this generation that we live in? Are we not the most impatient people that there's ever been on the face of the planet? I mean, we want what we want, and we want it right this minute. But what I've seen and learned in this life is, you know, that is not the best way to live. It's not. Because there are greater things if we'll wait on them. You know, I think of so much of the time, you know, about situations. There was a guy that played basketball for the University of Kentucky, and his name was Antoine Walker. Y'all may not know who that is. Every time I think of Kentucky basketball, I think of Brother Johnson. This brings back all kinds of memories there because he was a huge Kentucky fan for those that knew him. But Antoine Walker played for Kentucky. He got a contract for $130 million. Now that's a lot of money, isn't it? $130 million was his contract. Do you know that at this moment he's living in an apartment in Colorado playing minor league basketball for $20,000 a year, completely bankrupt? Now how can that be? How in the world can that be? Well, he gambled. It's legendary about how he would go into casinos and just gamble, not thousands, not tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands of dollars away. Why? Because he had no vision for his life. He didn't think beyond any parameter other than just what I want right now. And I'm going to tell you, this is a bad way to be. It really is. Because, you know, we can get what we want in the short term, but then whenever the tough times come, as they do, if we don't have the right vision, then we're going to, and we're disobedient, then you know what's going to happen? We're going to end up just like he is. Because he traded something that could have been so wonderful away for something that really, to me, is just sad. I always see this, of course, where I work, and I'm just going to put this out there, but y'all know how bad it is to text and drive. There isn't anybody in here that's ever texted and driven, have you? Okay. If you have, there's altars here. You can come pray and ask for forgiveness. Because what is that? You are driving a car with your life in it. And maybe someone else's. And we cannot wait. Are you kidding me? 10 minutes? You can't wait to drive yourself home? 10 minutes to look at some, most of the time, just stupidity or silliness? Well, maybe not all the time. On your telephone? And you know what happens? When your vision is like that, when it's like, I can't wait, even forget about waiting down the line. You can't even wait 10 minutes. I got to see this right now. I got to respond to this right now. Yeah, I'm driving a car. People do it all the time. And do you know what happens? Then their car goes off the side of the road. I see it constantly. Or they swerve over into... I was taking Kate to school the other day and somebody was doing it. And I mean, it's a good... Let me tell you something. We got to be paying attention. Your eyes... Listen, we need to be vigilant. Because there is a heavenly vision for your life. But there's a lot of things that can happen to disrupt that vision. Do y'all know that? And you know, when you make a mistake, it can be just a simple one. But you look down at your phone and you take your eyes off the road and you swerve over and hit somebody's car that has a little baby in it. Then you, because of your own, what's the word? I don't even want to say. Stupidity. Impatience. You can just call it what you want to. You have taken a life, maybe even your own. Because why? Because we just can't, it's the way we are. And we've got to change it. Because there is a wonderful life for us. If we are willing to wait. Give me Habakkuk 2. I talk to my kids all the time about things, you know, and I look at it as a father, as a dad. And as a dad, I'm thinking about my family. Y'all are dads. There's a lot of dads in here. My kids are real deficit spenders. Y'all know that? I tell them all the time, save your money. Save the money. If you get a $20 bill, put it away. You know, build for something better. Is all the time I'm trying to get them to do. Don't go take it to Walmart immediately and just blow it on junk that you're going to throw away. You know what they do? Every time they take it and they blow it on the junk. And I said, well, you need to save up. And they go, why, Dad? That's what you're for. That's what they say. They go, I said, well, what happens when you want to buy something? They'll go, well, we'll come to you. So see, then I've got to have the vision, all right, for the family, because I'm the guy who's constantly going, let's pull this back. Any other dads in here do that? You get the finances, hey, no. My famous line is, we'll see. They go, Dad, can we get this? I said, we'll see. They go, well, Dad, we'll see always means no. And I said, okay, then no. That's better. But you know what? I've got children to provide for. I've got a family to look out for. My views now are no longer just about what I want. They can't be. Because I've got a lot of things I'm responsible for, and so do you. You can't think that. A lot of people do think that way. They do. They just don't care. They don't think about their own lives and down the road. And, you know, should I? Yes, you should. You should have that kind of viewpoint about your own life. And we really should have that kind of viewpoint about the next life. It should be on our mind constantly. Jesus said this, He said, lay up not therefore treasure on earth where moth can come in and get it and dust or rust comes in and takes it. He said, rather put your treasure in heaven. We ought to be constantly thinking about our treasure in heaven and looking at that, beyond this to that. Habakkuk said this, he goes, I will stand upon my watch. He goes, you know what, my eyes are open. Dad was talking about, it's funny how this works out. Sometimes he tells stories and then I do it. But he said, I will stand upon my watch. He was talking about going to sleep on his, but he said, I've got to watch. You know, my eyes are open. Our eyes need to be open about what's going on in this world. Because there's a lot at stake out here. A whole lot. It's our life. It's not just that life, it's the abundant life that we've got prepared for us and waiting for us in heaven. The heavenly vision. But he goes, I will set me upon the tower. We sang that song earlier today that said, "The name of the Lord." And if y'all will let me, I'm just going to say that. I'm going to set me upon the name of the Lord. I'm going to stand and watch. I'm going to set me upon the name of the Lord, and I'm going to watch and see what He will say to me and what I will answer when I'm reproved. Keep going, Marlon. And the Lord answered me and said this. What did He say? Without a vision, what are we going to do? What does it say in the Scripture? You know why people are perishing? Do you know why they're not? You know why they don't realize the heavenly vision? Do you know why? It's because they're disobedient to it. Is that too tough? No, it isn't. It's because they're disobedient to it. It's because they'd rather have right now what they want as opposed to waiting for the Lord to work for them. And the Scripture plainly says, "They that wait upon the Lord will what? Renew their strength. They'll mount up with wings as eagles." You're going to run and not grow weary. You're going to walk and not faint. And we sing that song. It says, "Teach me. Oh, teach us, Lord. Teach us, Lord, to wait. Teach us not to be disobedient to the heavenly vision You have for our lives." Because I'm telling you, it's wonderful. It is. He said, write the vision, make it plain upon the table, that he can run that reads it. Go on, Marlon. He said, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. Things in your life that come along, it's all an appointed time. Things happen when they're supposed to happen as long as we can get to them. But he says, at the end it shall speak and not lie. And he says this, though it tarries, what does that mean? It's slow in coming. Though it tarries. See, sometimes it's going to be a little slow in coming. But he says this, what did he say? Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait, church, don't trade it out. See, that's for me. I'm not trying to trade out what I know that my future is, where the Lord's concerned, and in this life and beyond this life, and it's a good one. But I'm going to, listen, if I can wait for it, it will surely come. It will come every time. You know, I think about Moses. You know what happened to Moses in the end? You know why he didn't get to fulfill the vision? Moses had an amazing vision. He had a vision of taking a bunch of people from Egypt and bondage all the way up to the promised land. Y'all know that? And he took them a great many ways. He sure did. He got them out of Egypt. They crossed the Red Sea. They saw Pharaoh's armies destroyed by it. And then they went over into the wilderness where they stayed for 40 years. And you know, Moses got impatient. Moses got all the way down to the end. He got all the way to the cusp of something that was marvelous. Something that the Lord had told him. He's like, Moses, I've got a vision for you. It's a heavenly vision. You're going to take these people, and that was God's will for Moses. It was not God's will for Moses not to see that. Are we clear? Moses took his staff, and the Lord told him, he said, Moses, I want you to speak to that rock. And Moses, in his impatience, he didn't want to wait. He took his staff, and what did he do? He did exactly what the Lord told him not to do. He was disobedient to the heavenly vision that God had. And do you know what happened to him? Yes, you do. What happened? Well, I'm going to tell you this. It took two other guys that came in there and were not disobedient. In fact, they were the only two that were not disobedient. Most folks, church, I'm going to tell you something. Most folks are going to look at all of this and they're just going to go, we can't do that. We can't. It's been too long. We're not going to wait any longer. We can't go. We're not. We're going to stay right here. And they just said, no, we're not. We can do this. We can do. But Moses, he hit that rock. He got angry. He smote that rock. And when he did, he was forever cut off from realizing God's perfect will for him. And I don't know about you all, but that bothers me. Because it tells me something. It tells me that if I take things into my own hands, and if I'm presumptuous enough to not wait and not tarry, but I want to just have it my way all the time. And Lord, I know what your word says, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do this my way. And I'm going to do this the way I see fit. I'm going to tell you something, that's disobedience, and it costs every time. Oh, church, it's going to surely come. What's coming? The heavenly vision. It's just yours. And mine's just mine. And oh, there's a perfect will of God for each and every one of us. Paul, at the end of his life, told Timothy, what did he say? He goes, Timothy, I fought a good fight. Oh, I fought it. What did he say? I kept it. Give me the next one, Merlin. I'm going to quit. I gotta stop. And he said, behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in God. But what? But the justified. They're going to live by what? Their vision. Oh, not their vision. Not my vision for what I want or what I think my life should be. But the heavenly one. And the heavenly one is wonderful for you. It's my desire today to see every person in this church realize their heavenly vision. Both in their lives, me, you, everybody. I want it to be good. You know what? My life's really good in the Lord. I've seen Him bless our family, and you've seen it too, haven't you? Haven't you? You have. Oh, if we just will wait on it. Just wait on it. It's coming. Everything is coming. Maybe not when we want it, but it's going to get there if we can wait. And the just are going to live by His vision. Without vision, we're not going anywhere. Without obedience, we're not going anywhere. You know, so much of the time in my life, this is a very difficult thing to manage. Y'all know that? This. You have one too. It's very difficult. It wants things. It has desires. It has a mind. And oh, I want the right one in it. The mind of Christ. Not the mind of my own self. But you know, it's a constant struggle for me to constantly be pulling back. But oh, it's worth it. It's worth it. I can't tell you how many times I see people choose the here and now, follow the impulse. They want the woman. Oh, they're married and have a great, but they want this woman. Or they want this thing. Or they want that thing. And you know what, the next thing you know, guess what? The little heavenly vision that was for that family, that was for that life, goes, is this a game? This is not a game. That life's off the tracks. You know why? Disobedience to it. It's a serious business. We can act like it, but I see it all the time, and it breaks my heart to see a drunk driver take their little child, put them in the car, run off the road, and they lose their life. That breaks my heart. And I know it does yours too. I hate seeing it. I'm not here preaching about it. I'm just telling you, we've got to be vigilant. And we've got to have our eyes open. We need to be up on the tower. We need to set ourselves a watch. And we need to get there where the name of, what's that we sing that song? Get ourselves where the name of the Lord is. That's where the righteous are going to run into. And you know what they're going to be in there? Safe. Safe. Oh, the just are going to live by vision. What's our heavenly vision today? Just wait and see. But oh, let's not do like they did in the wilderness. Let's not do what Moses did. Oh, how to get to the very end where you almost realize it. And then it's gone. It's a sad thing. God bless. Y'all stand up.